Do you have coffee-loving friends that you don't know exactly how to make a card for? Well, I'm going to share one with you today. Let's get into it. For my card today, I'm using the Caffeinated Critters Stamp and Die Set, the Latte Love Stencil, the Modern Typeset Dies, and the Rounded Arch stencils from Miss Ink Stamps. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp my little penguin on a piece of Hammermill cardstock and using just alcohol marker friendly ink. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp my inside also. And I just picked another image from the set and my inside sentiment, which says sending caffeine hugs, which I thought would be fun for a coffee drinker or a caffeine lover for a Christmas card. So I'm just going to stamp that on the inside, and I chose to use Lumberjack Plaid Distress Oxide ink to stamp that in. So that we're going to stamp that twice. And I just love that little guy. He has that cute little mug in his hand. I hope these images are so cute. So I'm pulled out another piece of Hammermill smooth cardstock, and I've added it to a sticky mat. And I'm taking my Latte Love stencil and adding first, and then I added the largest rounded arch stencil on top of that. And I'm going to tape that into place because I only want the image to be in the center. The rest of it we're going to do something else too. So I'm coming in with frayed burlap and ground espresso, and I'm going to add these in to the stenciled area for my background. I started off with the frayed burlap, and then I decided I wanted a little bit more of that. I wanted to add some depth to it. So I added in the ground espresso, and I'm just going to I started to come around the edge and leave the center lighter, but then I decided to blend the two colors together a little bit more in the center to have a different shade. So I'm just going to add that, and then I can clean my stencils and then pull them up, and you can already see that gorgeous background we have. And I came in with a vintage photo to add just a little bit more depth around the edges of the card front and to give it more of that coffee feel, since this is for a coffee loving friend. So I added just a little bit more into that. Oh, I'm sorry. First, I did just the ink that was left on the brush from the frayed burlap and the espresso. Now I'm adding the vintage photo. I got confused. I'm so sorry, y'all. So I just added that around the corners to brighten it up a little bit. And now I'm going to color my little penguin. Now, I'm going to use Copic markers, so I'm going to come in and color the darkest area with the C9. I chose Cool Grays to color him because it's a dark color, and I wanted him to look nice and black. I could have added the black in there, but I like to just go with the C9 and then blend that out with the C7. And then I'll blend that with the C5. There's not a lot of real estate on that, but it's enough that you need to get the color in there. And I don't really know if this is actually a penguin or is it a different type of penguin. I can't remember. I know there's a certain penguin that has the little funky eyelashes. I know that's not right. The feathers at the top, the ornate feathers. And I can't remember now because I wished I could remember. I'll have to look that up. But we're going to call him a penguin because that's what we're doing. So I'm adding the C5 in next, and then I'm blending that out with the C3 as my lightest color. I like for his face to be a lot lighter. That way it doesn't lose any of the detail in that face, and keeps him really cute and lovable. Now for the white part, I just did C3, C1, and C0 so that it still appeared to be white. And I realized that I did forget his little hand, and I did go back and color that, so don't y'all worry. I'm going to get that. I saw it. So I'm going to go ahead and blend that C1 out with the C0, and that way everything is nice and blended, and I just left the center completely white. This is where I'm going back and hitting my coffee. So I did E29 and E39 or 37 for that. And then that's where I'm hitting the hand now. I just had to go back in. It's a little area. I don't have to do too much. So I'm just coming back in with those cool grays and just hitting that one more time to color that a little up. And so we'll just go ahead and finish coloring. Now for my cup, I decided to do him red. So I'm using R59, R29, and R27 for that. The R59 is my darkest color, and I kept the shadow to one side since it is kind of in the center of his body. That way, because the center of his body is a little bit more highlighted, the cup on that side would be a little bit more highlighted as well. Unless it was like in the center, and then it would be a little bit different. All right, for the ornate feathers at the top, I'm coming in with the YR909, and I chose that color for his feet along with YR68, and then my lightest color on that was the Y19. And then for his feathers, I'm going to blend that out with the Y19 and the Y17 and the Y15. I kept everything pretty simple color-wise. That way, I mean, it is a Christmas card. I like to add the color, but I don't want to spend all day coloring. If y'all are like me, the quick coloring is the way to go with that. So I'm going to cut that out with the matching dies, and then I can go ahead and put my card together. I've got my arch panel down, and I did cut that down to 3 3/4 by 5, and I've added that to a piece of smooth cardstock from the Jolly paper pad. And I'm just going to add that on to my top folding A2 card base. For my little penguin, I'm going to add him up on foam tape. And I've added some small ones behind his foam squares. I added small ones behind his little ears. I'm going to peel those backings off and pop him into place. I could have added a panel underneath to ground him, but I'm going to use the sentiment for that. All right, I got my adorable little penguin in place. I'm going to go ahead and start laying out my sentiment. I've die cut those using the Modern Typeset Frame Dies. I picked the letters from those, and I'm going to spell out Merry Christmas. In this die set, there are 2 different types of letters. They're in the same style. One's just a little bit more, some of the letters are a little bit more curvy. It's the same font. There's just one that's just a little bit more decorative. So I kind of just mixed the 2 together because I wanted some of those more swirly ones in there. Now, don't do like I did. And when I first started, I didn't cut all my letters out because apparently Rick cannot spell Christmas. I forgot one of the S's. So I had to go back and cut another S before I kept going on this video. So I'm going to go ahead and spell out Merry Christmas. I'm just adding each letter with a little bit of liquid glue, and I'm just going to pop those into place. Just adding it. I'm just kind of lining them up best I can. Rick did not think to grab the T square until a little bit later after we got Mary spelled out. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep adding that. Just get straight and lining them up at the in line with the M is what I'm doing. Normally, I would just do like maybe an offset or staggered sentiment if I didn't really want to sit and fussy with it. But I was trying to be good and get everything in there. I do love this Y. I love how that has that little swoop in it. I think it's just pretty. Same with the T and the H. And now I'm going to get the T square and line everything up using that. And that way I know everything will be perfectly lined up. I'm going to start by putting my C. I did space everything out and then moved it off so I knew where to start at. So I'm going to go ahead and add my C in at the top. That was one of the big things that I was to make sure you use something on a straight edge or T-square to get everything lined up. And then from there, I could just line everything up with the C at the bottom of that, and then keep everything nice and lined up perfectly. I'm pull that T-square back in, and then I can go from the line everything back up there. I added this to the top of the decorative part of the H. Had to think for a minute what that would really be called. And then I just kind of kept going and spelled out Christmas. It was super easy to do. I love a good alphabet die set. That's one of my favorite things because you can spell out any sentiment you want with an alphabet set. And these with the frames, I even like them even better because you can have the frame and do more with it. You know, I'm all about getting more for the bang for your buck. So if you don't have them, check them out. They'll be on my top list for new crafty supplies. All right, I'm going to go ahead and finish spelling out my Merry Christmas. And then I kept looking to make sure, did I spell this right? And I know I did. But when you're dyslexic, you have to double check things a couple times and second guess. So I'm going to go ahead and finish spelling out my sentiment. And then I'm going to talk to y'all about how we can step that sentiment up a little bit in our card for our caffeinated loving friends. All right, we're going to add our last little letter here, and we are going to move on. I'm just going to make sure everything's nice and straight before I press it down into place. And then, I forgot the tittle. You can't forget the tittle of the eye. Heaven forbid if we forgot the tittle. I just picked it up to double check to make sure everything was lined up. And I'm just going to go in with my white gel pen and add a few highlights throughout my little guy. And then I'm going to step the sentiment up and I'm going to add highlights to it. Now, when I have highlights that I want to add to a die cut sentiment, I go with where the light would be hitting, like on any of the upstrokes, and anywhere that there might be a little lift in it. I just add those right along there. I just pick a side and go with it. I make sure if it has that little upstroke or downstroke, then I will add it onto those. And then I'm going to add a little bit of Stardust Stickles to my coffee mug and to his little decorative feathers on his head. And then I'm going to come in and add some twinkle rhinestones from Trinity Stamps to add just a little bit more sparkle around everything. I added 3 at the top at by the Mary, and then I'm going to add 2 close to the Christmas at the bottom, just right above it. And I just kind of staggered those. And that will finish off my card. Here's a closer look, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.